Okay, so I'm out here enjoying my morning as a routine, and something that I'm trying to figure out for myself is understanding what my, as they say, productive times of the day is going off of the time that I was actually born. It's something that is naturally occurring to me. And so when I thinking about that concept of the hour of which I was born, they have it stamped at 1332, which is military time for 1:32 in the afternoon. I'm finding where I can be the most productive, where I can pull in the most energy to actually have time to take care of myself, but also knowing that if I start to overexert myself, that my body would also let me know when it's time to actually rest or when it's actually time to sleep and eat and all that other stuff. And so trying to figure out my perfect timing and my own biological or circadian rhythm, it's not going to be like the boomers, truly, or the World War IIers. I'm not trying to do a 9 to 5 where again it's going against my own natural rhythm. Like after COVID happened, I can't do that to myself. It goes against, like you say, or like people say in society, my gut intuition, my natural alignment. And so trying to figure out or research for myself what are the best times. I was watching Robin Thiebb's little short about what I hate most about myself, and she was giving somebody tips on how they should be able to work productively at home and also find time to, I guess, be able to integrate that remote working or that homework life with everyday life, because some other people will say that you're not being productive at this time if it doesn't fit their structure. And that's the most damaging thing, right? To make somebody be on someone else's time that's not conducive, that's not healthy. Unless you're together and y'all have made that bond, that connection, there should not be infringement on anybody's time. And so when I look at coming from the military and knowing that I literally was 24/7, even more than that, but my work schedule required me to be available literally 24/7. It's something that these civilians don't understand. Because my mom tried to equate her 35 years to my 9 years of service, which isn't okay. But again, my mom wasn't ever on call. She didn't have to have, a duty phone where, again, if something went out of alignment with the refrigerator, I had to go and, take care of that. Or do fire watch for a building that wasn't going to catch on fire. But again, knowing that the military had easy access to me is something that literally did change my biological rhythm. Even roving in core school and roving in boot camp changed my sleep patterns. But it went more than that. It changed again how I work productively throughout the day. And so when I'm looking at myself now, knowing that I'm literally a year out of being in the military, I'm trying to reclaim that or repurpose it, because I still have the tendencies to want to get up early, but I have to find, these, as you say, fillers to make meaning out of my day. And it's not just working for Target or Party City or for anyone. It literally has to be for me. And so I'm out here today because of, I took a morning walk to start out my routine, and I did that at 7 something in the morning because of, it says that's the best time, but also knowing that, again, it's something that I had to do anyway. Being back in San Diego, going to work, waking up at 7 o'clock, even before that, to go to the clinic to again open it. And that's something that civilians really won't understand. And that's the hardest thing about reintegrating yourself back into civilian world, is that although they might have the same concepts or the things that we talk about, it's truly different. Because now, even if I go to work, I still have a lot of downtime in the process. And what can I do, or what should I do, or how should I speak? Because even knowing, again, going against your circadian rhythm or your biological clock, it affects literally your brain. It affects the stress response system. Those are just two things. But again, learning how to respond to people, knowing that stress is there because you're sitting in an office or sitting in a desk or doing something that, again, is going against you. You have the tendency to respond not the way that the persons around you want you to respond. And that's just, again, you going with what your body is telling you how to respond. So it's true that when you are outside of your normal self, outside of the biological clock, because mine, again, my biological clock is set, literally. If you're looking at the time and date that I was born, it's set to February 5th, 1989 at 13:32. So what does that mean? How do I make the most out of that if my time, my biological clock is set to that date, that year, that month, and that time? Mainly the time thing, because again, birthdays come annually. It's an anniversary, but if my body is literally set to that time, and time, as the world put it, is 24-hour increments. Although if you look at lunar calendars and Gregorian charts and all that, time is absolutely linear. Because when are you the most productive? That means it falls outside of the 24-hour timeline. But if you are productive in your own 24 hours, then again, that speaks to the pattern of, I guess, time lineation and everything like that. But if you work inconsistently in a 24-hour time frame, then it's not really 24 hours, is it? And that's something that science is failing to really address, because once science looks at something like that, they look at it through sleep cycles. But knowing that other cultures and other religions, do and did things differently, it's a multitude of other things. So we want to look at it through the hibernation period, through the cellular process, through anything like that, but we have to take into other considerations too. Like, what are your practices outside of, your body makeup? What are your, I guess, developmental, cranial, frontal, all that? What other things contribute to that process, that internal clock. That's something that I'm trying to figure out for myself, because what I want to do is really start my own whatever. If I become like a life coach, which is something that I do desire to do, I love to help out people, right? I find that if I'm helping out other people, I'm also helping out myself, and that is the greatest gift anybody can give to someone. And so for me, in order to build that, I have to first align myself with myself. And then from there, I can take on clients in order to, again, show them that it's possible to have a life, a real sustainable life. It's not about sustaining happiness and everything like that. It's about building a life that is worth living. Sustainability comes from inside, because your cells are going to say that or do that for you. And the only way that you most likely can do that nowadays is if you go get blood tests to look at your metabolical, output and everything like that, or get somebody to, well, I think that's literally the only way that you can really figure out cellular, development, is through actual blood tests. And so that's, again, like something that, I'm trying to figure out. And cellular blood test goes into a lot of things, because metabolism and what we eat. Again, it's not even about that either. Some people can go hours, months, days without eating. It doesn't mean that they have an eating disorder. No. It just means that their body already is slow in metabolism. So why force them into eating more than what their body wants to naturally take in? So again, when I'm talking about circadian rhythms, and I'm talking about my own, cellular makeup, what does that really mean? Because science jumbles it and makes it confusing. Science tells you how to eat, how to live, or medicine tells you how to live and how to do this. But again, knowing that it's not a standard. They standardize these things when they shouldn't be standardized. It's a practice. It's a training. And that's, again, what we are missing nowadays. We are truly missing it. And so what I'm trying to do is break that idea of a standard for myself, because, again, I don't fit into that time frame. Again, if I'm looking at the time that I was born, 1332, February 5th, 1989, then again, I'm set and programmed and wired different. I'm not meant to do a 9 to 5. I'm meant to break up my days and break up my hours, in the sense of how, again, I fed when I was a child, how I, developed in walking and talking. That's how you really look at your biological system, about maturing, about, even men, although, what is it, when we talk about menstrual cycles and menstruation and all that stuff, even men have moods like that, because we're all, as you say, born biologically female. We are in the womb until gestation breaks up, or that stress hormone changes things. So again, even men, or male, has estrogen in them that affects them. Instead of it being called the infradian, rhythm, blanketed term to include man is homeostasis systems, or homeostasis period. And again, that's just looking at a cellular divide of what the brain does during a sleeping waking cycle, but also knowing that during these processes that you have a lot of hormones and a lot of cellular division and everything like that affecting everything else. And so when I talk about that, when I say the infradian cycle or rhythm, people might say otherwise. It only talks to females, but you also have to take into consideration those that are, female physiologically, which also can go and account for transgender women. Once they start lowering that testosterone and, increasing the estrogen, they literally become physiologically female without the menstrual cycles, but they still go through, even having the hot flashes. And again, that's what we talk about, or what I'm talking about when I'm looking at what does it mean to have these divisions within the cellular development of who you are. We introduce things when we eat. We introduce things when we're taking supplements because we think that is going to bring longevity to the cells in our bodies or slow down anything like that, blah, blah, blah. But knowing that overall, what my rhythm or what I'm trying to figure out for myself is different from everyone else, it might seem abnormal to my parents. They want me to be productive, but my production or my productiveness isn't contingent on their cycle. And that's something that I'm learning too, is that my parents literally are changing my cycle of sleep because they don't sleep they don't go to bed at 10 o'clock. They literally are up until like 1, 2, and then they have to get back up at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that messes with my sleep. Because I remember my mom came into, this is as like an analogy, right? My mom came into the room that I'm currently occupying, which is my sister's old room, and it didn't take much for her to throw me off a cycle. And she turned on the light, and that kept me awake for the rest of the night. And that was around 10 o'clock. To me, that was very disrespectful, very harmful, but that was normal to her, which shouldn't be. So it's like not just boundaries, but knowing that, again, my cycle is different from her cycle, which makes it difficult for me to adjust. And so what I'm trying to do again now is not be in the house so much and trying to figure out again what are the best times for me to be productive. So this is what I'm introducing to you all. It's like, figure out really the time that you were born, and then try to figure out a cycle or a time that really works or is, I guess, evolved around that. And also knowing that there are different time zones too. So figure out, the different time zones too, because if I wanted to, let's say, go traveling or something, and again, I was born at 1332, will I be the same jet lag if I went to a place that's 11 hours ahead based off of that time? Probably not. Because if I go, let's say if like I took a trip, and to know that I might be at my best to travel at 1332 and it might be 11 hours to get there, that means that I have 11 hours to sleep, which means I might get there early in the morning. But still, my body would be able to process and rest, and I still will be able to sleep once I get to my destination. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm trying to figure out for myself right now, is where do I go, or how do I find my purpose in moving forward with a purpose-driven life and a career that is meaningful. And so I'm hopeful that if you are watching this, because I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel, that y'all can understand where I'm coming from, or even giving me ideas on how I can better become, productive, because it's something that's an importance to our society, right? Might not really be that important to somebody that's like me, a millennial. Like, I know a friend right now who works remotely at her house, and she does public health research. Other people might think that she's being lazy because she's not at a brick and mortar, but that's what works best for her. Remote work at home. which means that she creates her own schedule. She creates her own schedule, and at the same time, she's able to be in the comfort of her home. But if she needs to take a break, she can. And doing that to run errands. Being close to home and building a home and all that stuff is something that, again, society tells us that we need to do. And for me, being a millennial, like I said, I'm trying to understand that in the most simplest ways, better than what my family has done or my parents' generation has done. So, until next time.